Hello, dear ones. I stand among the ruins of a site in Ireland called Monasterboice, which was an ancient or medieval monastery and site of some of the most famous so-called high crosses in all of Ireland. Of course, Ireland has a famous stone cross tradition, 200 or 300 of these things spread throughout the country. Many of them from the medieval period. And here at Monasterboice, actually, maybe the most elaborate and famous of the crosses, the so-called South Cross. Here, it's about, I don't know, 12 or 13 feet tall. It's pretty tall with these just beautiful, elaborate scenes carved on it. And I thought it might be fun to talk about one of these scenes because on this side of the cross, okay, leading up to, and I believe that's the triumphant Christ there, whereas on this other, in judgment, whereas on this other side, we have here a scene of the crucifixion. But on this side, we have the Old Testament scenes. So it's thought that these crosses were actually ways of teaching the community scripture. So people could gather around these crosses, perhaps not the monks, maybe in meditation, but the community. And you can meditate on the story of scripture through these registers. So here at the bottom, for example, sorry, I'm messing around with the camera here. Here at the bottom, you see Adam and Eve, and then Cain and Abel, Cain striking Abel there. And then at the next one up, you have scenes. I mean, the literature here says scenes from the life of David here. Maybe someone's playing an instrument here, if that's what that is, or maybe that's a shield. I'm not totally sure what's going on here. But this next one up, really interesting. Moses striking the rock, Moses, for the Israelites in the wilderness, which is kind of maybe an odd scene in a way. Why narrate that exactly? Like, I get the scenes from the life of David are definitely Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, but like, why choose what they chose for these registers? I mean, some of it could just have been for artistic purposes. The artist needed something that would fill one of the registers. But the scene with Moses here, Moses and the Israelites in the wilderness with the rock, I think might have had a special gospel significance for the community or for the sculptor, because in the New Testament, in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, in this amazing interpretive move, Paul actually speaks of the rock from which the water came to Israel as an actual rock that followed the Hebrews, escaped Hebrew slaves around the wilderness. This rock that followed them, Paul says, was Christ. And astute readers of the wilderness tradition in the book of Numbers probably well know that, in fact, that story does not narrate a moving rock following Israel around in the desert. This is thought to be, or actually is, a Jewish midrashic storytelling tradition from sometime in the Common Era. How far back it dates or when, not really sure. But it shows the freedom that Paul had as an interpreter to draw upon the Jewish storytelling tradition and to place Jesus even within that storytelling tradition outside of what we now know as the canonical Old Testament. If you've never noticed that reference Paul makes to the moving rock before, I'll put a link down below. It's in 1 Corinthians 10. So why have that scene here? Where is it? I'm trying to point here in the camera. Why have that scene then of Moses striking the rock? Well, because it's a depiction of Jesus, right? And in a sense, if you have Christ returning here triumphant to judge, it is also maybe in a way you could say a scene of judgment. When Moses strikes the rock in a particular way, he is judged by God and told he cannot enter the promised land. But of course, the rock was the source of water for Israel. And so it makes a nice gospel theme then, especially with Paul's midrashic account of the rock being Jesus Christ following Israel around in the wilderness.